Welcome, everybody. And thank you for chiming in. Thanks especially for our sponsors, ASICS and Koros and Electrolit. And I know and Volvo, a great sponsor of the LA Roadrunners. You guys keep us driving and we thank you. So let's get the show on the road. Tonight's talk, wait, hang on. Here we go. Tonight's talk is going to be, well, that's my book. There we go. We're going to talk about carbs. We're going to talk about sodium. We're going to talk about proteins and all that fun stuff. Really, resources. One of the main, I'm going to go out on a limb here. The main reason, fatigue would be another reason if you don't have the strength to go the distance. But that would be a problem where people will slow down and burn out if you don't have the strength to go to the distance. You can cause cramping, it can cause amazing fatigue, soreness to a point where you're slowing down, stiffness, so you're slowing down. But that aside, we're not going to talk about strength issues tonight, but we are going to talk about resource issues that will slow you down on race day and also in training. I mean, that's really what a lot of what racing is all about, is you're going to deplete your resources down and down and down and down and down and get it to the right specific timing, so that right as you cross the finish line, that's where you plummet. That's where you hit the wall. That's where you run out of carbohydrates, sodium, hydration, not hydrogen, hydration, and carbs, which would be glycogen, all that stuff. Depletion in glycogen is why you would hit the wall. All those things. But before that, you're on full to keep going. And in fact, before that, hopefully, you're doing a negative split. That's what pro athletes all want to do, a negative split, meaning the second half, or for us non-pro athletes that don't go quite as fast as sub 5 minute per mile pace, the latter portion of your race is actually speeding up, which we've talked about, the 80-minute rule, and we will talk about again before the actual LA Marathon. But you want to be able to speed up toward the end of your race, not be burned out and slowing down. So many people say, well, you hit the wall at mile 20, 21, whatever. Well, no, you don't want to ever hit the wall until you cross the finish line. That's the whole point of it all. You don't want to think in those terms that, well, I'm going to go out at such and such a pace because I know I'm going to hit the wall. And so I'm going to go fast early on so I won't hit the wall until later, which makes no sense whatsoever. You don't want to hit the wall. You don't until you're done. Anyway, so we're going to talk about resources that will enable you to carry on, so you don't have to slow down. You don't have to hit the wall, lack of glycogen from, carbohydrates become glycogen. So here we go. Do yourselves a favor, just to start with. Calculate really quick discussion of carbs. Once again, we've just had this discussion, but calculate where you are with 40 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour. Somewhere in there is about what you need to consume per hour of your marathon. Now, keep in mind, a gel is only like, goo. I don't have one in front of me, but goo is 22, 23 grams of carbohydrate in one gel goo packet, right? And goo is one of the sponsors of the LA Marathon. They will be on the course in 2 different locations. Okay. So two goos an hour with nothing else, carbohydrate wise, that's about not even 50 grams of carbohydrate. But most of us don't do goo every 30 minutes because it's really high glycemic and you'd probably get sick of it. Keep in mind, if you take in over 60, 66 grams of carbohydrate per hour, that's too much. And your body will, like you ate a box of cookies as a kid and you felt like, you just felt sick and maybe even a little nauseous. that's the way you'll feel from taking in too much carbohydrate in any form, including our wonderful sponsor, GU. Too much is just of a good thing is just too much. So you do want to be below 60 grams of, carbohydrate, or you're going to get that, childhood feeling of eating a box of cookies. But now electrolyte doesn't have a lot of carbohydrate in it. That's why we can do more electrolyte. So you may want to start thinking in terms of a GU packet or a gel. And we're going to have GU on the course this Saturday for everybody to test in Santa Monica. And I think we're going to have a fair amount of it in Griffith Park as well as Newport Beach. I'm bringing it to Newport Beach. So anyway, in Santa Monica. I think they already have it in Griffith Park. At any rate, so test out those gels, maybe like one every 40 minutes, right? So you're getting in 23 grams of carbohydrate every 40 minutes. So that would be the equivalent of every hour. GU would be 23. That would be, what would that be? About 30 grams of gel packet per hour if you took one every 40 minutes, right? So, okay, you're almost at that 40-gram point. And then electrolyte, yep, like every table might get you to that above 40, 50 gram of carbohydrate per hour. That might get you there. But start thinking in terms of that much in the way of carbohydrate and testing it out and see how you do with that. There you go. That's my whole talk on carbs for tonight. But really quick, this is for the future lecture. Tapers are really important, especially the final taper. Get ready for the final taper. It is coming up. Most people on the average gain 3%. I'll talk about this again and remind you, 3%. Just during the taper alone, the final 3-week taper. So really plan out your schedule, not to have like a 2-week taper or a 1-week taper, but really plan out your schedule to do our 3-week taper that we have on our schedules, because they're really important. You can have anywhere between 0.5% increase in energy output on race day, and even as much as 6% energy output on race day. The average, like I said, person is 3% increase in energy on race day, just from that taper, just from doing less. So that taper is extraordinarily important. In a minute, we're going to talk about sodium and protein, but here you go again. I've shown you this before. Here's race day right there. Draw a line right straight up. Here's where you begin that taper. Here's where even though you are tapering your high intensity work, you're tapering your volume of low intensity work, your ability level, your fitness level is still going upward. Got it? So everything else is coming down and your fitness level is still going up all the way to race day, which is right down here. So that is such a critical thing. So get ready for it. The other thing is begin to taper off caffeine, like do a half cup of coffee less a day or a quarter cup of coffee less a day, so that on race day, if you're going to do caffeine, if that's part of your plan, if you're going to do a gel with caffeine in it, a caffeinated gel, make sure you start to diminish your intake of caffeine now, soon down to 0 in the next like 3 weeks or so. We have 7 weeks from now till race day, so 1 month of no caffeine. Hopefully you'll be getting more sleep then too, to compensate for less caffeine. And your hormone levels will be better and your energy will be better for the extra sleep. And your race day, you'll be able to use caffeine. Don't go cold turkey on caffeine. If you're using a lot of it, you start getting really, really bad withdrawal symptoms, including headaches, shaky jitteriness, maybe even high blood pressure. So don't do that. So get ready. LA Marathon race day is coming up in, well, 7 weeks. Here we go. Protein. Protein is important. Now, you don't need huge mounds of protein. Let's face it, the old Texan steak diet where you have a giant plate of steak and then you have just a little, thing of green string beans on the side, not exactly a healthy meal. You can get protein in from all sorts of things. Like, oh God. Uh, there are vegan elements to protein like soy, like legumes, rice and beans have some protein when mixed together, all sorts of things. But protein makes you feel fuller. If you're not getting enough protein, you may feel a little more hungry. You need all three: carbs, fats, and protein. Otherwise, you're just not going to feel full. You miss out on any one of them, and you're going to feel hungry. You can eat a ton of food, and you'll still feel hungry. Though I do have to say, protein will help make you feel fuller than probably carbs and fats. But I'm going to show you a diagram in a minute of the muscle, and I'll show you it. You'll really get a big picture of this. It does really, really help rebuild muscles. That's what protein does. Now, the question is, does it, there are amino acids in goo, and amino acids combined make protein molecules. That's kind of what protein is. It's a combination of amino acids. We don't know maybe all the amino acids. So when you take a protein powder, you may be only getting part of the amino acids that are actually exist in foods, but certainly you're getting in the more important ones. Science doesn't really know all the amino acids, but I use protein powder, what the heck? Nothing wrong with it. The question is does it rebuild muscles while running? And there is some theory that it will. We don't know. We don't have any real hardcore data that says muscle fibers will rebuild while running if you take protein in during the run. Although, if you do take a little protein in during the run, like I said, you will at least feel less like you're starving, and let's face it, we're out there a long time. If you're out there 4 hours, or if you're sitting at a desk for 4 hours, I get hungry after 4 hours, just sitting there. It is really, yeah.
Aw.
What? Okay. Did somebody have a question? Okay. Anyway, good. I don't know what. Anyway, it's really, really bad as a resource for fuel. You really want to use carbs and fats as your resources for fuel. If you get to a point where you're using protein as a resource for fuel, one, you're probably metabolizing, you're basically eating up your muscle tissue to turn it into protein to use it as fuel. And that fuel will not get you very fast at all. Carbs make you a little faster. Fats take you longer distance at a little slower, lower heart rate. Protein, man, you're going to be, walking dirt slow, and you're going to be burning up muscle tissue, which none of us want to be doing. So protein is really not a good source of fuel, ATP. That's a whole other lecture, ATP. But like I mentioned, goo does have some amino acids in it, and amino acids make a protein. Okay, enough of protein. We'll talk about volume of protein that you need later on, another lecture. But for now, let's just talk about what the hell is that? That is actually the innermost. It's a little blurry because I expanded it. I apologize, but I copied it off the internet. It was probably the best picture that I could find. That is the innermost working of your muscle. Billions of these little filaments and things called the sarcomere make up your muscle. And I mean billions of them. These are so small, you cannot see these with a microscope. You need like sub-supersonic, an atomic microscope to even see like faint shadows of these things. That's how small they are. They're so small, this little strand up here that looks like little beads of molecules actually are beads of molecules. That's how small these things are. These are called, the whole machine here is called the sarcomere. These are actin filaments. Here you go, ACTIN. Actin filaments are these kind of purple like things that go across the top. Then myosin filaments in the middle with these little myosin heads. Now, your muscle actually activates as a ratchet system. You know, when you're turning a crank and it's kind of clicking tighter and tighter and tighter, the ratchet is clicking and clicking and clicking tighter. That's exactly the way your muscle works. These protein molecules and the myosin heads right here, protein molecules, can click on these actin filaments, which are a combination of protein molecules, right? And they click on these little protein molecules and they lock them in and they go tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter inward and toward this center line here, right? The M line, which is basically the center line. These little things out here are called titin. They're like spring devices. So as this thing is clicking tighter and tighter and tighter, and these things go very, very quickly, the titin, our springs are actually ready to pull it apart, okay? That's what these little kind of gold colored things, again, molecules of protein, little tiny strands, but basically these are like rubber bands. They want to pull this side away and this side away, the one side to the left, one side to the right. Now you got these little Z bars. And so as these things get pushed closer and closer together, this little Z bar here will go in and in and in with it. And this will go out and out and out, and the Z bar will crush down. And that's the way your muscle works. Now, most of your fuel turns into what we call ATP, adenosine triphosphate, 3-triphosphate molecules. I can only assume adenosine is like the name of the guy, or I don't know where they got the name adenosine, but 3 phosphate molecules, one breaks away from the other two, an electron pops out, explosion. You have a nuclear reactor in your muscle. If your skin was opaque or clear, you would virtually glow in the dark. That's why we heat up when we're running or walking briskly, right? That's why we are warm creatures, is because we are essentially a nuclear reactor. Now, we're not using plutonium, we're using food sources, which is an amazing thing when you think about it. You eat food and turn it into a nuclear reaction. Got it? Now, why does that nuclear reaction work? Well, that ATP explosion here knocks these myosin heads down, so the ratchet system basically closes, and the titin kick in, and this sarcomere will pull apart. Got it? It will release the muscle, because that ATP has been generated by your neurological processes in your subconscious brain that controls all of these things, and you're completely unaware of it. Your human body is just this outstandingly amazing, impressive thing that you are completely unaware of 90% of what your brain function does. We are programmed creatures, and they program us wherever we get programmed. We are programmed really well. I don't know what your beliefs are, but we are programmed very well, and we can reprogram ourselves. We are probably the most impressive AI, and we're not artificial, that there is on the planet. at least so far. So at any rate, I wanted to show you that this is all protein. That's where your protein goes. You don't need to eat giant mounds of steak. There's no reason for that. Really, the center of the palm of your hand, if you're even a meat eater, which I am not, that's how much a steak or chicken or whatever, that big a size, that's all you need in a single meal to get in the protein that you need. We've talked about volumes of protein, really like 0.5 gram or 1 gram per centimeter of body weight. So if you take your weight in pounds, divide it by 2.2, that's how much grams of protein you would need in a day, 0.5 pound or a pound, excuse me, 0.5 gram or a gram of that. So there you go. Hopefully that gives you some insight into how your muscles work. Now, keep in mind, when you talk about cramping, you're kind of talking about that the ATP is not firing. So the question is why is that occurring? And we don't 100% know, because this is really a complex system that is fed from your nerves, and cramping really starts with a twitch in the nerve system. That's kind of shorting out your muscle, essentially. We do know that. It comes from the nerve and goes into the muscle. The nerve and the muscle are called the motor nerve. That's the combination of the two. That's just a term. Anyway, enough on all that garbage. Let's talk sodium. Now, for years, people tell you, if you drink too much water, you're going to flush out the minerals in your system. Electrolytes are minerals, and that includes sodium. And you need sodium to absorb hydration, right? So don't drink too much water. Well, I think, that makes no sense to me. And I've heard this over and over, and I'm not hearing it as much as I used to, but there were a couple of years when it's like, coaches all over, man, don't drink all that water. You need to drink less water. Oh my God, you're going to flush all the electrolytes and the sodium included out of your system. You're going to cramp. You're going to, cramping is not just a depletion of minerals. It can be fatigue and other things. But one historical reason they thought it was about sodium depletion was cramping. It's more than just that there is that, but it's other reasons as well. So my thinking, you need hydration. You need to make the muscles fluid. You need the fascia, which is this kind of gelatinous sheath that goes around all of those muscles, that lubricates the muscles. You need to keep that filled with water. You need water, you need hydration, you need blood. Blood comes from liquid, you need all that. So for me, for anyone to tell you, oh, don't drink too much, well, you don't want to be dehydrated either, because that's dehydration has caused less blood flow. You need the same volume of blood flow to get the red blood cells all the way around your body, to get oxygen through your body, to make your muscles function. And if you have less fluid, you're going to have less blood. So that means your heart's going to have to pump harder and harder and harder and harder. So as your heart rate goes up and up and up and up from dehydration, that means you're using less and less and less fat and more and more and more carbs. And the more and more carbs you use, now you're going to burn out your carbs. So you don't want to dehydrate yourself. Don't do that. That would just lead you to hitting the wall from using too many carbs, from your heart rate going too high. I know that was a really big throw of information to get to a point, but here's the thing. You can always take in sodium. You can take in minerals the same way you can take in protein. We eat food. We have mouths. We can take in mineral pills. We can take in, there is sodium. Sport drink has sodium in it. Now, electrolyte, you should know That will be on our course. And I love electrolyte, and I really, really do. I like the flavor of it. I like the fact it doesn't have too much sodium. I like the fact it doesn't have too much carbohydrate, but we do need, because you can drink more of it. So you won't get dehydrated. So you'll have more fluid in your system. But there is that downside to electrolyte that you need to know, and that's that it doesn't have as much sodium and it doesn't have that much carbohydrate as something like Gatorade or Nuun. Keep in mind, I really do like electrolyte. I cannot drink Gatorade. I can drink Nuun, but I cannot drink Gatorade. I really can't. Um, that would be a tough one for me. Um, Anyway, so you can take in sodium the same way you can take in carbohydrate and in other sources that other than electrolyte. And so we need the American College of Sports Medicine recommends that endurance athletes, meaning all of you watching, consume about 300 to 600 milligrams of sodium per hour. Now, goo has about 60 milligram. So it's not a lot that you're getting in from gels. Okay. So I'm getting you to start thinking math here, because so much of your marathon is a mathematical equation. It's nothing to do with building up in more and more and more and more miles. It has to do with spending more and more and more and more time to change physiology. It has nothing to do with pace. It has to do with getting used to different levels of heart that do different things. And I'm not going to explain that. That's a whole other lecture. But math is an important equation for your marathon. So calculate salt stick pills, especially on a hot day. If it's a hot day, you're going to need to take in minerals like sodium from some other source other than gels or electrolyte. I mean, you're just going to need to. You won't be getting enough. If it goes up into the 80s, and God knows today what the heck the weather's going to be like, if it's going up into the 80s, you would all benefit from some kind of mineral pill. Now, anyone that has high blood pressure, anyone who has high blood pressure, I warn all of you, please be very, very careful. You may want to consult a sports nutritionist or a medical doctor, although medical doctors don't always know about endurance. But you may want to find out how much sodium you're able to take in before you spike your blood pressure, because let's face it, you do not want to have you spike your blood pressure, right? Those of you who are have that tendency to have high blood pressure. So be careful. Sodium will raise your blood pressure a little bit. Those of us, most of you watching, almost all of you watching, I would venture to guess, those of you who have high blood pressure, you probably know about it. You may even be on medication for it. Those of you who are not, most of you, salt stick, Hammer Nutrition, and Duralites are two different forms of sodium pills. They're just little capsules. They're clear capsules with white powder in them. They look like powder, looks like sodium, you know. And I highly recommend that it's going to be a hot day, go to a running shop or a triathlon shop or a bike shop, and any one of them will have either Salt Stick or Hammer Nutrition and Duralites. And Duralites is the name. Hammer Nutrition is the company, and Duralites is the product. Salt Stick, the only thing they really make is Salt Stick pills. They also make a stick to put the pills in. Don't get that. It's really more for cyclists. It goes in the handlebar of your cycle, and then you turn it and the pill comes out and you take it, or your pill is on the road behind you if you miss. I don't know. I don't get the stick thing. Anyway, don't get the stick. You can put your pills in a Ziploc bag and put it in a pocket, or you can have a bag that's snapped around you or something. Obviously, you sweat. You don't want to just put the pills in a pocket, or the pills will begin to melt. So there's real food for thought, minerals, food for thought, all those things, sodium especially. You need sodium in your system to help you absorb hydration. You can drink all you want, all the liquid you want. If you don't have sodium in your system to help you absorb it, you're not going to absorb that hydration. It's going to sit in your stomach and you're going to get nauseous because your stomach's going to want to get rid of that water. And you may see some of that occurring at the finish line of of any marathon. I won't explain what that occurring thing is. You can kind of imagine. Anyway, it has to do with your mouth and water, and never mind. So with that, I say train smart and train to win, because if you don't, you won't. And if you do, darn it, just might. Thank you, whoever said that. And I will see you all, and I mean it, in less than 7 weeks at the finish line. There you go. And that's it from my little lecture. I'm going to open the floor to discussion from anyone who has questions about any of that first, and we'll get into personal stuff later, or open questions later. But does anyone have any questions about that long harangue that I just gave? Kristen, you have a question.
Yeah, so
Great.
I've taken salt sticks before, but the ones that I'm used to are like the little round tablets that are chewable, that are lemon lime flavor. Are those the kinds that you're referring to, or are there like a different ones that are actually like a pill form?
That's great. If you like the flavor thing, me, I'm just used to popping a real pill. It's like a clear capsule with little powder in it. You can see it through the capsule. And I pop it in right before a water table. I pinch the cup of the water, which I do at every water stop anyways, because that little pinch of the cup, the top of the cup, creates a funnel. And then kick it back and get all the water in your mouth, as opposed to around your face and up your nose when you just have a normal round cup. And you may want to try practicing that at water tables. Just grab a cup, pinch the top, and see how much water you can get in your mouth, instead of the whole round cup thing. But yeah, I right at a water table, I'll pop it in my mouth, drink, or before, 100 feet, yards before the water table when I see it, pop the pill, drink, go. If you like the chewable, there are a lot of new products on the market that do the same thing. Check the volume of sodium. So you're going to get that, like 220 to 300, whatever, per hour. And especially on a hot day, if it's not such a hot day, your body does maintain a reservoir of minerals. So you don't need as much, except on a hot day when you're sweating it out and you're drinking more, and you need to sweat it out to cool your body, and you need to drink more, which does flush it down your urine, or into your urine. But yeah, on a hot day, absolutely, you're going to need more than just what you're getting in gels. And whatever form you're taking it in, great. Good job, Kristen. Hopefully that answered it. Yeah, great stuff. Let me go back. I think we got some questions. Let's see. How many seconds should you hold it for? This was from last week, I think. Oh, stretching from last week. Okay, here we go. Okay. I don't think I have, tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think I have any more new messages in the chat box. Oh, Rebecca, go ahead. I'm sorry. Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to make a comment. During the summer, I drank some really bad tea and had diarrhea for a month. Anything I ate would just went right through me. And but I was signed up for the Dodgers Sunset Run race, and I didn't want to miss it. And so I played around with the gels, and I found this Huma Chia Energy Gel Plus, and it is great. I mean, it was really gentle on my stomach. I like it because it's not that heavy, sugary. taste, and it has 240 milligrams of sodium, potassium 75 milligrams, calcium 25 milligrams, and so and the aminos. So if anybody's trying to look for something that's gentle in the stomach, and I was able to keep food down. This helped me in my recovery. It just like food just didn't go through me during that time, and I was able to get back regular on it. So just throwing it out there.
Rebecca, you bring up a really, really important point for especially at least 5% of the people who are endurance athletes. And that's that, unlike you, sort of similar. I mean, you ate something that really impacted your system, but unlike you, there, I'd say about 5% of the people out there that don't need a bad drink or food or whatever. Whatever they do, whenever they go out on an endurance event, running, walking, whatever they do, they have like severe abdominal distress. They will have severe diarrhea or both. And it's just the way they always are, not just like you, where you had this bout of it. And so you bring up a really important point for those people that, and there are a lot of them out there that have this ongoing all the time thing. And there is always something for every individual that will work, but it's a lot of trial and error. And you stumbled on this Huma stuff. It's good stuff. I know it's a little more liquidy. It's not as thick. There are other gels out there that are similar. Morton gel is a little thinner than that. Hammer Nutrition makes a gel that mixes with water really easily and is also thinner. There are other drinks on the market like that. To look for those of you that can't stomach a heavy gel like GU or some of the others that are more prevalent on the market today. So yeah, really good point you bring up. And thank you very, very much for that. Everybody's got their own, the reason that we generally have GU right after or before we do marathon race pace, or our heart rates are elevated a little bit, is to really test it, because your stomach, when your heart rate is elevated, your stomach will push blood out of the stomach and into the muscles that we run with, your arms and legs predominantly. So your stomach becomes less and less efficient. So some people, that's why we don't eat solid food. Go ahead and eat a solid bar while running marathon race pace sometime. It will not be easy to digest. You will feel it like a brick in your stomach. Trust me, I've tried it. It doesn't really work well. That's why we do gels as opposed to solids. But some people need something even more liquid than gels, And there are gels out there that are more liquid. So really, really good. Kristen, need to jump to a yoga class. Kristen, take care. We'll see you later if you're still on and hear this. Does anyone else have any, I don't see anything in the chat, anything verbally, questions about what I just said or anything else? Any questions? Okay, any personal questions like injury issues or whatever, anything? Okay, with that, we could all leave this if we want. I'll still stick around for a little while longer, but I can turn off the recording. Any questions going once? Going twice? Going 3 times? Okay. For those of you watching the recording, I'm shutting her down and I'll stay on for those of you still online. But thank you very much for watching this recorded version of our discussion. And thanks, Mel said, appreciate the information, coach. Take care, everybody. And for those watching the recording, good night or goodbye.